Leviticus 13 and 14 is probably not the first place you'd expect to find the gospel message, but we can see glimpses of Jesus when we look closely. The chapters are about how to identify and be cleansed from skin diseases, and in part can read more like a medical textbook than the Bible. Before we look at how the cleansing from leprosy regulations point us to Jesus, understanding what leprosy is thought to refer to helps a lot. The rabbis interpret leprosy as a punishment for speaking evil against someone, as the Hebrew word for leper is similar to someone who gives a person a bad name, or for speaking negatively in general. Moses' hand became leprous when he expressed doubt that the people would listen to him, and Miriam was struck with leprosy when she spoke against Moses. When King Uzziah became powerful, it led him to pride, which caused him to offer incense unauthorized on the altar. He was filled with rage when confronted, so was struck with leprosy until his death. Naaman, the army commander in Aram who suffered with leprosy, also seemed to have root issues of anger and pride. He's the only person in the Bible to be healed of leprosy before Jesus came. The priests could not heal leprosy, but only proclaim when someone was cleansed from it. Jesus, in contrast, could heal leprosy, and told the healed lepers to follow the procedure laid out in Leviticus 14. Jesus not only stunned onlookers by compassionately touching the leper, but he took the uncleanness on himself, being forced to stay outside of town due to the leper's indiscretion with his testimony. It was the leper who was to avoid people normally. There's a Jewish concept of the leper Messiah based on the principle that the Messiah would bear our suffering and be stricken by God. However, Jews broadly interpret Isaiah 53 to be about Israel, as other passages on the suffering servant refer to Israel. This doesn't completely fit though, and Jesus specifically applies Isaiah 61 to himself. We're warned against using our tongue for evil, deceit or slander, gossip, arguing, lying or flattery. James tells us that the tongue is a world of evil among the parts of the body and difficult to tame. The protocol for a person with suspected leprosy was to be examined by the priest, then to go through 2 cycles of 7-day isolation and re-examination to confirm whether or not they were infected. We see elements of this process in how Miriam's case was dealt with, and in the ordination of the high priest, perhaps to preempt any negative thoughts or speech he had before he interceded on behalf of the nation. If leprosy is symbolic of evil speech, then the spiritual application of this could be not to spread gossip and slander. The ritual for cleansing from leprosy sounds bizarre, but it's rich in meaning. The priest examined the infected person outside the camp, and if he was healed, he ordered that 2 live clean birds and some cedar wood, scarlet yarn and hyssop be brought. One of the birds was killed over fresh water, then the live bird was dipped with the wool, yarn and hyssop into the blood of the killed bird. The person to be cleansed was sprinkled 7 times with this strange mixture, then pronounced clean. The live bird was then released. The cedar tree is among the tallest of trees and represents our pride and self-exaltation, while the hyssop plant is a small shrub representing humility and where we should be at spiritually. As we looked at with the red heifer sacrifice, this ritual points us to Jesus, as he was crucified on a wooden beam, was given a sponge soaked with wine vinegar on a hyssop branch, and was made to wear a scarlet robe. In addition, blood and water came out from Jesus' side when he was pierced, like the bird was killed over water. 1 bird was killed for the other bird, and the live bird dipped in the blood of the killed bird, then set free. What an amazing picture of how Jesus was killed for us. We are baptized into his death and set free. The live bird was bound with the yarn to the wood and hyssop, like we are to consider ourselves crucified with Christ. The person is sprinkled with the mixture 7 times, which symbolizes perfection or completeness in the Bible. Elisha's instructions for Naaman's cleansing followed this principle. After this, the person washed their clothes and bodies and shaved off all their hair, a process repeated after 7 days. On the 8th day, he brought offerings before the Lord. The priest would take some of the blood of the guilt offering and put it on the right earlobe, thumb, and big toe of the person being cleansed. The same was done with the oil. This process is similar to the ordination of the high priest. This symbolic cleansing of ear and thumb represents hearing and doing, so the person could be obedient to God's law, and their big toe so they could walk in God's ways. This essentially is summarized in the statement of faith, the Shema. As we are all guilty of evil speech at some point, and we are all priests in God's kingdom through Jesus, then this applies to us. We should be cleansed in our hearing, actions, and spiritual walk, walking in obedience to his commands. Please like and subscribe for more Bible nuggets from a Hebraic perspective.